And people called me crazy when I said that the Bengals would not make the playoffs last year. No, let me play this. People called me crazy when I said that the Bengals will not make the playoffs this year because I've watched a disgusting amount of film on Joe Burrow, and if anybody is an advocate for Joe Burrow, it's me. I've always supported Joe Burrow, even when they beat Alabama in the it was a regular season game when they played him a couple years when he was at LSU. But when you look, I talked about Trevor Lawrence transform the transition from college offenses versus NFL offenses, and this is very important. If you watch Joe Burrow and the offense he had at LSU, conceptually he was so focused on defensive schemes, defensive coverages and whatnot. In the NFL, to be an elite quarterback, it's more than that. Joe Burrow is, and now I will say this, Joe Burrow with that offense, with Zach Taylor's offense, the success is predicated on Zach Taylor being at the helm. Zach Taylor being the guy that orchestrates what's going on. But if you look at the communication as a quarterback is very important. I played in these offenses before in college. I've seen these offenses and how they operate. It is an offense that where if one thing is off or one thing is not understood or one thing is not communicated or one thing is not in the right place, it doesn't flourish. Joe Burrow has been at the realm or just been in a situation where he can solely focus on the pass coverage, where he's not calling his protections. Joe Burrow, his offensive line is not the problem. The biggest problem is Joe Burrow does not call his own protections. Now, I'm not saying he can't call his own protections, but he does not call his own protections. And this is what's limiting him because the communication between the offensive line and the quarterback is probably year 2 for him. You think because he tore his ACL, but year 3 for him, he is still learning to understand the game. You hear Mahomes saying that he didn't understand coverages until year 2, year 3. Talk about Brett Favre doing the same exact thing, right? Brett Favre's a fool, but Brett Favre doing the same exact thing. Joe Burrow, important because this particular reason. If Joe Burrow is calling protections, then he understands where the defense is moving, how they're operating, what the Sam, the Will, the Mike are doing, what the defensive fronts are doing. Is this guy in the 3 technique? What is he typically doing in 3 technique? Okay, what is this guy typically doing in 6 technique? Okay, what kind of stunts do they pull? Okay, he's over here. This is important because it helps him understand how to shift in the pocket, how to move in the. But I've watched, like I said, disgusting amount of film on Joe Burrow. And if you look at the communication, he is not calling his protections. The communication is happening between the offensive line. If you look, Joe Burrow is focused on the pass coverage. He's not focused on the front. And that's a problem. For him to be elite like those guys, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, these guys are elite at that level because they understand how it's important to call protections. Now, I say this, Joe Burrow he's a good quarterback, but he can be a great quarterback if he calls his own protections. But I don't know if he has that capability to do that in this offense. So one thing that is limiting, and the reason why Joe Burrow is getting sacked so much is because he does not call his own protections. It's easy to see. The communication between the offensive line and Joe Burrow is not there. While they're calling out, where protection the center is, and they're pointing and everything, Joe Burrow is looking at the pass coverage. So if something goes wrong or breaks down up front, he panics, and that's a problem. For Joe Burrow to be elite, this is something he'll have to do in the game. So I'm not surprised. And when people call me crazy, people thought I was hating on Joe Burrow. No, I love Joe Burrow. I love the guy. But we hyped him up because he has 3 number 1 receivers, an all-pro running back, and a solid tight end. So don't blame the O-line. Joe Burrow is equipped with everything he needs to be successful. Before he came to the Bengals, Tyler Boyd had 2 1-GR seasons. Same thing with T. Higgins. And then you have Jamar Chase. By the way, Jamar Chase really needs to humble himself. If Jamar Chase does not humble himself, he will have a short-lived career as a journeyman in the NFL. So once Jamar Chase, look, he's done some great things. I think there's some things he has to develop, and when it comes to the route tree, but I think that Jamar Chase is a great, incredible talent. Just stay humble, guy. Just stay humble. All right, and that's the most important thing. But yeah, so the Bengals going 0-2 for me is not a surprise. I think that, and here's the thing: the reason why the Bengals always do so well late in the game is because Joe Burrow is not getting the feel of what's happening up front. He doesn't understand what's happening up front. A lot of plays he makes with his legs, and you see throughout the games, he makes a lot of plays with his legs. But as he understands how the defenses move, the defensive fronts are coming at him, the different techniques that they're doing, the stunts that they're doing, he starts getting more comfortable. But it's always too late because the later in the game, the defense is playing tight. If you're off the field for quite a bit. That defense is fresh throughout the game. So that is why the Bengals are having struggles when it comes to winning late in the games, but also Joe Burrow passing this threshold of being great versus a good quarterback. So I know you guys are ready to crown Joe Burrow as a great quarterback. Stop. Okay, just stop. He's not. He's getting there if he is allowed to do this, or he does this, or that he pays attention to this. But college football and NFL, it's not just about reading pass coverage. It's about reading those defensive fronts, and that's the most important thing.